Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs.
You look friendly.
Nice to meet you. How are you? The time came for the little pigs to leave their home and make their way in the world. Goodbye, my little ones. Be happy, but beware of the big bad wolf.
Who will wash my socks?
Let's go! If you let me stay, I might even do the washing up.
Oh, it'll be nice to get a bit of peace and quiet. Shh! Don't tell them I'm here.
The 3 little pigs went on their way. This plant is heavy.
I'm tired already.
I wonder what's up there. The first little pig soon found a piece of land, and he quickly built himself a house made of straw.
Oh, this is easy. Oh, I hope I don't have hay fever. Oh, all done. Looks fine to me.
The second little pig found a piece of land, and she built herself a house made of sticks.
Oof.
That's a good start.
Oof.
La la la, I'll have this ready soon.
Oof.
That'll do. Maybe I'll have a party. The third little pig decided to build a house made of bricks. He worked hard, and his house took a long time to build.
Oh, these bricks are really heavy.
How do you do?
I'm going to need some more cement. That was hard work, but it's a great house. Just a few more things to do. Well done.
I'm just hanging around. The 3 little pigs lived happily in their 3 little houses.
I need a little nap.
I could dance all day.
This will be done in no time.
Until a big bad wolf arrived in the neighborhood.
I'm scared. I'm getting very hungry.
A wolf in a van. Oh no.
Where did those 3 little pigs go?
The princess was looking out of the window, where snow as white as her skin was falling quietly outside. She loved winter and snow, for it reminded her of her mother, who had given her the name Snow White because of the girl's fair skin. Snow White was growing happily at the castle with her father, the king, and her stepmother, the beautiful queen. Her father was a good and caring man, but her stepmother was a proud and vicious woman. The queen had a magical mirror, which she would often ask while looking at herself. "Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would always reply in the same way. "You, my queen, are the most beautiful among them all." The mirror was not only magical, but it was also very honest, and it would always tell the truth. And the queen loved hearing that she was the most beautiful in the world. But Snow White grew, and her beauty blossomed. One day, when the queen asked her mirror who was the fairest of them all, she received an unexpected and very unwanted answer. "Snow White, my queen, is the most beautiful among them all." The news struck the queen, but after the initial shock, she decided to solve the problem. Her plan was as cruel as her heart. The vicious woman called her guard and ordered him to take the girl to the woods, kill her, and take the heart back to her as a proof. The guard took Snow White to the woods following the queen's orders. He was a brave warrior and an honest man, but he was not cruel. When they went far enough, the guard told her to run away. His good heart just didn't let him kill Snow White. On his way to the castle, the guard killed a wild pig and took its heart to show to the queen. Happy to hear that Snow White was dead, she hurried to her mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" "Snow White, my queen, is the loveliest among them all." Saying that, the mirror showed to Her Majesty that the girl was still alive. That Snow White's stepmother was vain and vicious was well known. However, no one knew that the queen was capable of certain magic too. So when she heard the news, she waited no more, but decided to kill Snow White on her own. At that time, Snow White wandered alone in the woods until she came to a small cottage. It looked so unreal with its tiny windows and small door and chimney. "I wonder who lives there," Snow White said to herself, and entered the house. Everything inside was just as small as the house itself. The table was set for 7 people, and Snow White was hungry. Therefore, she decided to have a bite of each meal and a sip of each cup, so that she doesn't leave anyone without a meal. When she was done eating, Snow White went to the bedroom and tried a couple of beds before she fell asleep on one of them. It was not long before the house owners got home. They were 7 dwarves who worked in the mines every day. What a surprise it was for them to find that someone entered their house and is now sleeping on one of the beds. The dwarves let her sleep. When she woke up, Snow White told them her story. When they heard all that she had to tell, the dwarves gathered for a meeting. They decided to let her stay and live with them. The next day they left to work and warned Snow White to be very careful and not to open the door to strangers. At that time, the queen had been preparing the next evil plan to kill Snow White. She dressed herself as an old woman, took a poisonous apple which she had prepared herself, and set off to Snow White. "Sweet apples I have, my lady. Won't you buy some?" the queen asked Snow White when she found the dwarves' cottage. "My landlord's told me not to open the door to strangers," the girl said. "Oh, you don't need to open the door. Here, try this big red apple," the queen said, and gave Snow White the apple. When Snow White bit the apple, she fainted on the floor lifeless, and the queen ran away. When the dwarves found her, they thought she was dead. They tried everything they could to save her, but they couldn't bring her back to life. The dwarfs cried and wept for days. They laid her on a bed of rose petals in a crystal coffin and started to the mountains to leave the coffin there so that they can see her beautiful face every day when they were going to and back from the mines. On their way to the mountains, a stranger met them. He was riding a beautiful black horse, and when he saw Snow White, he fell in love with her. "Where are you going with this beauty?" he asked them, and they told him that they were going to the mountains to lay the coffin there so they can go and visit Snow White every day. Then the stranger, who was a prince, suggested, "Let me help you with this. You can put the coffin on the horse's back." The dwarfs lifted the bed of roses and all started for the mountains. On their way, the horse stumbled over a bump, and at that moment, Snow White coughed out the poisoned bite. When she woke up, the prince and the dwarfs couldn't express their happiness. She told them what had happened, and they understood it was not an old woman, but the vicious queen herself who gave her the apple. The stranger then spoke. "My princess, if you become my wife, I will protect you day and night from your stepmother." At that time, the queen was standing in front of her magical mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" Expecting that the mirror will give her the answer she was expecting, "Snow White, my queen, is still the fairest of them all. She survived your poison, and she is getting married to a prince who saved her." The queen couldn't bear the news and died.
Once upon a time, there lived a king. He had a beautiful daughter. She liked to play with her golden ball by the pond near the forest. One day, the princess accidentally let the ball fall into the pond by mistake.
Oops! Oh no!
Splash! She tried to find her ball in the pond, but the water was too deep. The princess began to cry very loudly. An ugly frog sitting on a rock by the pond heard her.
Now what will I do? I have lost my golden ball forever.
What is the matter, princess? Why are you crying?
I am crying because my golden ball fell into the pond.
Do not cry. I can help you.
How can this ugly frog help me?
What will you give me for finding your golden ball?
I will give you whatever you want, dear frog. I will give you my jewels. I will even give you the golden crown I am wearing.
I do not want your jewels or your crown, but promise me this. Let me sit by you and eat with you, and then you must kiss me too. Promise me. Then I will go down into the pond and get your ball.
Oh, if I must, yes. I promise you all that you wish. Now, please hurry. Oh, my golden ball. Thank you, Frog.
The princess was very happy. She picked up the ball and hurried away.
Wait, wait! Take me with you! I cannot run as fast as you can!
But the princess pretended not to hear him. She ran back to her castle and closed the door.
The frog is talking nonsense. The forest is the right place for a frog. Life in the castle is not for him.
The next day, the frog hopped up to the castle door. The frog knocked on the door.
Oh, Princess! Princess! Open the door for me!
Oh no, it is the ugly frog! Make him go away!
The servant went to the door and told the frog to leave immediately. She slammed the door in the poor frog's face.
Princess! Princess! Open the door for me! Keep the promise you made to me. If you don't open the door, I will cry here day and night until you do. Open the door!
The king noticed that his daughter was frightened by something.
My child, what are you afraid of? Is there something scary outside?
No, it is nothing. It is only a disgusting frog.
She then told her father how the frog had helped her.
Dear child, you must keep your promise to the frog. A promise is a promise. Go and let him in.
Lift me up beside you, Princess.
What? No, I don't want to.
Dear, a promise is a promise. You should not make a promise if you do not intend to keep it.
The princess did not want to go near the frog, but she could not disobey her father.
Now, push your golden plate nearer to me. I am hungry and I want to eat together with you.
The frog enjoyed all of the food, but the princess could hardly eat because she did not want to be near the ugly frog.
Dear Princess, it is time for you to kiss me. If you do not, I will tell your father.
No!
The princess grabbed the frog and threw him against the wall.
Now you will be quiet, you ugly frog!
Oh! Oh!
The frog was very still.
Oh, is he dead? Oh my! What have I done?
The princess was frightened. She picked up the ugly frog very carefully, but the frog still did not move. The princess felt very sorry for him.
Oh, he just wanted to be my friend. What have I done to this poor frog?
And she kissed the frog as she cried. Suddenly, with a bright flash of light, the ugly frog turned into a handsome prince.
Whoa! You broke the spell! A long time ago, a wicked witch turned me into an ugly frog just because I did not like her. Only the kiss of a beautiful princess could save me. Thank you, dear princess.
The princess was overjoyed at the change. In no time at all, the prince and the princess fell in love and were married, and they lived happily ever after.
We must not think that beneath the surface of the oceans there is nothing going on. No, for indeed the finest flowers grow there, and fish glide between them. Standing in the deepest spot of all is the Sea King's castle. Its roof is covered with shells which open and close as water flows over them. In each shell there lies a glittering pearl which is fit for a queen. The Sea King looked after his children alone, and his mother kept house for him. She was a wise woman and a very caring grandmother to the 6 little sea princesses. They were all lovely, but the youngest was the prettiest of them all. Her skin was soft and delicate, and her eyes were as blue as the sea. But, just like all the others, she had no feet, and her body ended in a fish's tail. She was quiet and thoughtful, very different from her sisters. While they got excited about the wonderful things which they found in shipwrecks, She cared only about her pretty red flowers and a beautiful white marble statue of a handsome boy which had once fallen to the bottom of the sea. She made her grandmother tell her all she knew of the world above the ocean, and nothing made her happier than to hear these stories.
"When you turn 15, said her grandmother, you will be allowed to swim up out of the sea, sit on the rocks in the moonlight and watch the ships sailing by, and then you will see all I am telling you about. You're all a year apart in age, so you will have to wait 5 years for your turn to come."
Sadly, she was the one who longed the most for her turn to come, and yet she had the longest to wait. Time passed, and the eldest turned 15. She promised to tell her sisters what she saw on her first visit, and what she thought the most beautiful. When she came back, she said she had seen hundreds of beautiful things, but the most beautiful was to lie in the moonlight, in the quiet sea near the coast, and to gaze on a large town nearby, to listen to the sounds of music and the voices of human beings. A year later, the second sister was allowed to rise to the surface of the water and to swim about where she wished. She rose just at sunset, and this, she said, was the most beautiful sight of all. The whole sky looked like gold with violet and rose-colored clouds spread on it, and it all reflected in the water. The third sister was the bravest of them all, and when the time came, she swam up a broad river. On the banks, she saw green hills covered with beautiful vines and forests with palaces and castles sitting in them. Little human children were playing in the water, and she wanted to play with them, but they got scared and ran away. She said she would never forget the beautiful forest, the vines, and the children who could swim in the water, even though they didn't have fishtails. The fourth sister was more fearful. She didn't approach the shore, but stayed in the sea. The sky above looked like it was made of glass, she said, and this was the most beautiful thing. The fifth sister's birthday was in the winter, so when her turn came, she saw what the others had not seen. The sea looked green, and large ice blocks were floating about like pearls. She didn't know that they were called icebergs. Each had a unique shape, she said, and glittered like diamonds. She didn't know why people were afraid of them and steered away while she floated calmly on one of them. At last the youngest princess reached her 15th year, and she rose to the surface of the water. The sun had just set as she raised her head above the waves. The sea was calm, and the air was mild and fresh, but there were clouds glowing with purple and gold. Through the glimmering twilight, the evening star shimmered in all its beauty. A large ship was anchored nearby. The little mermaid swam towards the cabin windows, and as the waves lifted her up, she glanced through the windows and could see a number of well-dressed people inside. The most beautiful of all was a young prince, with big dark eyes. It was his birthday, and that was the reason for the joyful celebration. When the prince appeared on deck, the sailors lit 100 rockets into the air, making the night as bright as day. They scared the little mermaid so much that she dived underwater, but soon she resurfaced, and then it seemed as if all the stars in the sky were falling around her. She had never seen fireworks before. It was late, but the ship sailed on, and the little mermaid swam along because she couldn't take her eyes off the prince. But soon the waves became as high as mountains, and the ship groaned and creaked. To the little mermaid this seemed good fun, but to the sailors it was no fun at all. Soon the waves broke over the ship, and water burst onto the deck. The little mermaid now understood that this was a dangerous situation, and remembered that human beings are not as good swimmers as merpeople. It was pitch black, and she couldn't see anything, but then lightning struck, and she was able to scan the deck. She couldn't see the prince anywhere, so she swam to find him, forgetting that the beams and the planks could hurt her too. She dived a few times before she found him. Her eyes were closed, and his breathing was very weak. If it wasn't for the little mermaid, the prince would have died. She held his head above the water and let the waves drift them to the shore. In the morning the storm died down, and when the little mermaid opened her eyes, she saw that she was lying on fine white sand, and the prince was right next to her shoulder. She lifted his head higher than his body and kissed him on the forehead. His breathing was steady, and she longed for him to open his eyes and fall in love with her instantly. When the bells began to ring in the great white building nearby, a number of girls came out into the garden. The little mermaid hid herself behind tall rocks in the water and waited to see whether they would find the prince. After a little while, one of the girls noticed him. At first she seemed afraid, but then she called the rest for help. The mermaid watched the prince from a distance. He regained consciousness and smiled at everyone with his charming smile. But he did not know that she was the one who had saved him, and so he didn't smile at her. This made the little mermaid feel so miserable that she dived gloomily and returned to her father's palace. Her sisters met her joyfully and asked her what had taken her so long, but she didn't answer. She had always been quiet, and now she was even more so. She would often swim up to the place where she had left the prince, but she never once saw him. Her only comfort was the beautiful statue, which looked like him. At last she couldn't keep the secret any longer, and she told one of her sisters all about it. When you tell someone a secret, it doesn't stay secret for very long, and soon all the other sisters knew. In an attempt to help her youngest sister, one of the mermaids asked her closest friends who the prince was, and she soon found out who he was and where he came from. "Come, little sister," said the other mermaids, and they held their arms and rose up to the surface of the water close by the palace. Now that she knew where the prince lived, she would sit at the shore and would watch him. He also seemed to be quite lonely. She would often hear fishermen talk about his good deeds, and she was happy that she had saved him. If only he could remember that she had saved him. The little mermaid grew more and more fond of human beings. One day she asked her grandmother, "Do humans live forever?"
They die just like we do, but their life is shorter than ours. We can live to be 300 years old, and then we turn into sea foam while human souls live forever.
"I wish I were a human and had an immortal soul, if only for a day," the little mermaid exclaimed.
You shouldn't think about that because we live better and happier lives,
said her grandma. "Is there anything I can do to get an immortal soul?" The little mermaid insisted.
No, unless a man loved you so much that you meant more to him than his parents and more than himself. Only then would you get a human soul. But it is impossible anyway, see? People don't find our tails very beautiful. They think having two awkward limbs, which they call legs, is more attractive.
That same evening there was a ball at the Sea King's palace. All the mermaids and mermen were dancing and singing happily, but the little princess was dreaming of the world above. "I will go to the sea witch for advice while my sisters are at the ball. She will help me, although I'm so afraid of her," she thought. She swam for a while before she arrived at a palace built of human bones. Before she had even knocked at the door, she heard the witch's wicked voice. "I know why you came." Then the witch appeared in front of the little mermaid. "You want to get rid of your fish tail and have legs instead. This is a stupid idea of yours, and it will bring you only sorrow. But you will get your way since you long for an immortal soul so much. I will prepare a draught for you, which you must drink before the sun rises tomorrow. Swim to the land, drink it. Then you will see how your tail turns into legs. Of course, you will be in great pain from that moment on, and every time you walk or dance you will feel as if hundreds of sharp knives were cutting them. You will still have the gracefulness of a mermaid. Can you endure such pain?" "Yes, I can," said the little princess, but her voice was trembling. "There is more. You should know that once your fish's tail turns into legs, you will no longer be able to get it back. Nor can you return to your father's castle. You must win the prince's love, and you should get married. so that you can get an immortal soul. If he marries someone else, your heart will break, and you will turn into foam. Are you sure you want this destiny? The witch asked again.
Yes, I do,
answered the little mermaid, pale as the grave. That's not all. You must pay me for this, and the price is high. I want your voice. As it is the sweetest voice in the Sea Kingdom, the prince will not hear your beautiful songs because I will have to cut your tongue. The evil woman continued.
But what is left for me?
Said the little mermaid. You have your beautiful body, graceful walk, lovely hair and face. These are enough to enchant a man's heart. Now stick out your tongue so that I can start preparing the draft, which will turn your fishtail into legs. The little mermaid gave her voice for the draft, and rushed to escape the witch's house as soon as she could. When she returned to the castle, the ball was over. She wanted to say goodbye to her sisters, but she remembered she was mute. And so she took a flower from each of her sisters' gardens, kissed each of them on the forehead, and swam above towards the palace. She arrived at the shore when it was still dark and drank the magic draught. Instantly, she felt a cutting pain so strong that she fainted on the rocks. In the morning, she woke up with a sharp pain, but when she opened her eyes, she saw the prince in front of her. She thought she was dreaming, but he smiled at her, making her cast down her eyes. Then she saw that she had 2 legs instead of a tail. She then realized that she had no clothes on, so she covered her body with her hair. The prince asked her who she was and where she came from, but she only looked at him with her big, beautiful eyes, unable to answer. He then offered her his hand and helped her stand up. The pain in her feet was of 1,000 needles. But still she stepped next to him as light as a feather, and the prince thought he had never seen such a graceful girl. He brought her to the palace where servants dressed her in a beautiful golden robe. The little mermaid was so happy to finally be at the palace that she couldn't stop smiling. The prince called her his little foundling. At the ball, held that same evening, he couldn't take his eyes off of her as she danced. She danced like no one has ever danced before. The days passed, and the prince loved her more and more each day. But he loved her as a child. You remind me of the girl who once saved my life when I was drowning. I haven't found her yet, but I remember she found me on the shore and saved my life. You remind me so much of her, and you are devoted to me just like her. I am so thankful for you, and we will never separate, my dearest foundling.
He doesn't remember it was me who saved him, and he thinks it was the pretty girl who found him on the ground who saved him,
thought the little mermaid and sighed.
But because I am by his side and he sees me every day, he will remember it was me who saved his life, and he will marry me, and my soul will become immortal.
Very soon it was announced that the prince was to marry, and that the daughter of a neighboring king would be his wife. This news saddened her very much, but the prince calmed her when he told her, I will go and see the princess as my parents wish, but I will not bring her home. I can only marry the girl who saved me that you look so much like. If I were forced to choose a bride, I would rather choose you, my speechless foundling. The next morning the ship sailed into the harbor of a beautiful town. The little mermaid was very anxious to see whether the princess was beautiful. When she saw her, she had to admit she had never seen such a beauty before. I can't believe that I found you, the prince said to the princess. It was you who saved my life when I lay on that beach. He held his bride in his arms. Time passed, and it was time for their wedding day. Oh, I am so happy that my dreams have come true, and you could be here on my wedding day, my foundling, he said to the little mermaid as they were walking down the church aisle. The little mermaid, dressed in silk and gold, held up the bride's veil. She smiled at him, but she didn't hear the festive music, and her eyes saw nothing of the holy ceremony. She thought of her own death, which was going to happen very soon. The wedding was held on the ship that same evening. The little mermaid was gazing towards the east, towards her father's castle, when suddenly she saw her sisters rising out of the ocean. They were as pale as herself, but their long, beautiful hair had been cut off. "We have given our hair to the witch so that you may live. She has given us this knife. You must put it into the heart of the prince, and when his blood falls upon your feet, they will grow together again and form into a fish's tail. You will be a mermaid again. But you should do it before the sun rises. If you do it a minute later, you will turn into foam." And then they sighed deeply and sank beneath the waves. The little mermaid took the knife and entered the bridal tent. She bent down over the prince and kissed his forehead. Then she looked at the sky, which grew brighter and brighter. She then heard the prince whisper the name of his bride, and the knife trembled in her hand. She threw it far away from her into the waves, and the water turned red where it fell. She took one last glance at the prince, and then she threw herself into the sea, thinking her body was dissolving into foam. But she could feel the warm rays of the sun, and did not feel as if she were dying. She saw hundreds of transparent, beautiful beings floating around her. "Who are you, and where am I?" she asked, and they answered with their melodious voices. "Among the daughters of the air," answered one of them. "We do not possess an immortal soul, but by our good deeds we can win one. Because you suffered enough on the ground, you will now live with us for 300 years. After that, you will win your soul." "And we may get it even sooner," added another, "because we can enter the houses of men where there are children, and every day we find a good child, our time is shortened. The child does not know that when we fly through the room, we smile at his good behavior, and it takes out 1 year of our 300 years. But when we see a naughty child, we shed tears of sorrow, and for every tear a day is added to our time of trial."
Once upon a time, a rich man lived with his wife and daughter. But his wife was very ill. She asked to see her daughter for the last time.
"Dear child, be good and kind to everyone. I will be near you always and watching you from heaven. Always remember that God will protect you."
Then her mother died.
"Oh, Mother, I promised to be good and kind to everyone."
Every day, the girl went to her mother's grave and wept. She always remembered what her mother asked and was good and kind to everyone. On her way to the grave, a white bird always flew around the daughter. After many months, her father remarried. Her new stepmother brought her own 2 daughters to live with them. The stepmother and her daughters were very pretty, but unkind, and they had evil hearts.
"Who do you think you are? You should not be here. Go out to the kitchen."
"Yes, that's right. There are many chores to be done there. And stay there, too."
"Here's an old nightgown and some wooden shoes. These are more suitable for you to wear."
The poor girl worked hard from morning until night. Her stepsisters never helped. But the white bird helped her and sang a beautiful song to her whenever she wept and felt lonely.
"Lovely bird, you are my closest friend, aren't you? I wish you could talk to me."
When night came, she fell asleep by the warm hearth. Her clothes became dusty and dirty from the cinders of the fire. In the morning, the stepsisters laughed at her.
"Look how dirty she is."
"Let's give her a new name. How about calling her Cinderella? She has cinders from the fireplace all over her."
"Oh, yes, what a good name, Cinderella."
Poor Cinderella.
Every day she worked hard and had to listen to her stepsister's unkind words. Still, she remained good and kind.
She visited her mother's grave often and wept. When she felt sad, the white bird cheered her up with a beautiful song. Then she would feel happy again because the song sounded like her dead mother's lullaby.
One day, the king decided to have a big party. He invited all of the beautiful girls in the country. The king wanted his son to choose one of these pretty girls to marry.
I'm going to the king's party to marry the prince. Cinderella, fix my hair and help me get dressed.
No, help me first. I'm going to the party so that I can marry the prince, not you.
Please don't fight. I will help you both.
Cinderella helped her two sisters and thought that the party would be very wonderful.
I wish I also could see such a wonderful party. I wish I could see the beautiful people dance together and see the wonderful palace too. But stepmother would never allow me to go to the party.
However, the more she thought about the party, the more she wanted to go. She finally decided to ask her stepmother to take her too.
No, you don't have a dress to wear. Besides that, you're all dirty, and you don't know how to dance.
Everyone would laugh at you. Besides, we would be ashamed because of you.
Then, Cinderella's stepmother and two stepsisters left for the party. Cinderella was so sad that she went to her mother's grave and cried. The white bird followed her.
Oh, I wish I had a beautiful dress. Then I could go to the party.
As soon as the white bird heard her wish, it quickly flew away. After a while, the bird returned with a small package in her beak and dropped it into Cinderella's arms. Cinderella was surprised, but opened it quickly.
What a beautiful dress and a pair of shoes. Where did you get them? Oh, thank you, dear bird.
She quickly got dressed and hurried to the king's party. Everyone wondered who the beautiful girl was.
Who is that beautiful girl?
She must be a princess from a far country.
They could not recognize Cinderella. Won't you dance with me?
Yes, I will.
The prince would not allow anyone else to dance with her. He could not take his eyes off Cinderella. Soon it was late in the evening. Let me take you home.
Oh no, I must go home alone.
Wait, please don't go away so quickly. Did I do something wrong?
No, thank you for taking care of me.
Cinderella could not say any more, and she quickly ran from the party. She did not want the prince to know that she was only a maid. But the prince tried to follow her home. I cannot believe how fast she can run.
Cinderella took a shortcut and soon disappeared from sight. The prince tried to follow her, but soon got lost in the woods. After a while, he gave up and started the trip back to the castle.
On his way back, he heard a beautiful sound. What a beautiful sound that is! The prince turned his head to see where the beautiful sound was coming from. He found the white bird sitting on a tree branch. The moonlight was so bright that he could see something glittering beneath the tree. It must be one of the princess's shoes. In her hurry, she must have lost it here. Perhaps this bird knows where she lives.
The prince picked up the shoe and followed the bird as it guided him to Cinderella's house. Her father came out of the house when he saw the prince.
You there! Do you have a daughter here?
My lord, I have 3 daughters, but 2 went to the party with my wife.
Just then, the stepmother and 2 stepsisters came back from the party. The stepmother thought that the prince had come to pick one of her daughters to marry.
Oh, Prince, I am so glad to see you here. Here are my 2 beautiful daughters. Choose the one you wish to marry.
I need to find the owner of this shoe. This belongs to the princess who is at the party. She will be my bride.
My lord, that is my shoe. Oh, I mean, I lost it just a minute ago. I put another pair of shoes on just now. Please allow me to try it on inside the house, my lord.
They hurried inside the house with the shoe. The stepsister tried her hardest to put on the shoe.
Let me try it on. Ouch!
The stepsister tried to squeeze her toes in, but the shoe was too small for her feet.
Give me that. I am sure it will fit my foot. Let me try.
Cut off your heel if you must. You have to get your foot into the shoe.
The second stepsister curled up her toes and took off her stocking to try to make the shoe fit. But the shoe was too small for her.
You fool! Let me cut off your toes.
What? Mom, please.
But the prince overheard this and stopped her angrily.
Let me see your 3rd daughter.
She could not possibly be the one. She is dirty and ugly. Besides, she has been home all night, sitting in the ashes by the fireplace. I am sure you would not want to see her.
I insist. I must see all the girls in this house. They must all try on this shoe.
Cinderella was wearing her old nightgown and looked very dirty. But the prince did not hesitate to go to her.
Put on this shoe.
Yes, my lord.
It fit her foot perfectly. The stepmother was so surprised that she fainted.
You will be my wife.
Oh, no! This can't be happening.
The stepsisters sat down and cried loudly. The white bird flew to Cinderella and sang a beautiful song. It sat on her shoulder for a moment, then sat on the prince's shoulder too. The delighted prince took Cinderella and the bird to his castle, and there they lived happily ever after.
Sleeping Beauty. A long time ago, there lived a king and a queen. They had everything they wanted, but a child. Every day, the king and queen wished for a child. Then, at last, the queen had a beautiful baby girl.
Oh, how wonderful! God has given us a beautiful baby girl. Let's invite the people in the kingdom to a celebration.
Oh, yes, but we can't invite the evil fairy. She might hurt our child.
Soon, the royal celebration began. It was the biggest feast the king's guests had ever seen. The court wizards took turns blessing the baby. I bless you with the gift of virtue. This girl will be virtuous in every way.
I bless you with the gift of beauty. This girl will be more beautiful than all her peers.
The last wizard prepared to bless the baby. But suddenly, the uninvited evil fairy burst in. She was very angry because she had not received an invitation to the celebration.
Wait, let me bless your baby too. When she is 15, she will prick her finger on a spindle's needle. Then she will fall down dead.
Everyone was shocked and terrified by what the evil fairy had said. Luckily, there was one more blessing to be given. The last wizard lifted her head sadly and spoke.
I can't undo the evil fairy's spell, but I can soften its blow. Your daughter will not die, but will fall into a deep sleep. And everyone in the castle on that day will fall asleep too, until the princess is awakened. But she must be awakened by someone who truly loves her.
Oh, God! Save my princess, please! Now, burn every spindle in the whole kingdom! I will do my best to protect my princess.
The baby girl grew into a beautiful young princess. All the blessings had come true in her life. She was beautiful, kind, good, and generous. One day, she decided to go riding. You, get the princess's horse. Hurry! The stable boy couldn't turn his eyes away from the princess. Am I dreaming? How can she be so beautiful? Then the stable master hit the boy to make him work more quickly.
Stop! Never hit that boy again.
The stable boy thought that her kindness made her even more beautiful. The boy's heart beat quicker than ever.
Take care of yourself. If he beats you again, I will have him replaced.
However, the stable master did not stop hitting the boy. So, the stable boy ran away. He reached a distant kingdom, far away from the stable. One day, the princess explored the castle. She climbed up to a very old tower and opened the door.
Hello? What are you doing?
I'm making thread.
What a curious machine. It makes an interesting noise. May I try it? Ouch! Oh, I feel so strange.
Immediately, the princess fell into a deep sleep. Soon, one by one, everyone in the castle and even the animals in the stable fell asleep.
The evil fairy cast a second spell so that the ivy growing on the castle would grow thicker and surround the castle. The ivy grew so thick that it covered every part of the castle. Then, no one could get into the castle. Years later, however, news of the sleeping princess reached the distant kingdom where the stable boy now lived. The news also said that many brave knights had died while trying to rescue the princess. The stable boy had never forgotten her beauty and kindness. "Oh no! My princess! My love! I must rescue her!" So the stable boy traveled to the ivy-covered castle. When he reached the castle, he saw that thick ivy covered the castle. He cut his way through the thick branches. It was very hard work.
What's this? Ah, that stable boy. Grow my ivy and choke him. Grow, grow, grow.
Oh no! The ivy is moving! Oh, I can't breathe! God, help me!
give me strength. This ivy is what killed so many brave soldiers. However, he did not give up. He cut himself free from the ivy. Then, he tightly held onto a growing tendril.
And he quickly crawled up to the very top of the ivy, as if he were skillfully riding a wild horse. The ivy kept growing until it reached the old tower where the princess slept.
Then, through the window of the tower, he saw the princess lying down on the bed. There she is! She is right below me! It was a frightening jump from such a height, but he jumped and fell through the window of the tower. The boy could hardly move after the fall. However, he crawled slowly toward her. Oh, my lovely princess!
Now, grow, my ivy. Go in through the window and kill him quickly before he kisses the princess.
But it was too late. The stable boy kissed the princess.
No!
The princess awoke from her sleep. Soon, everyone in the entire palace woke up too.
Oh, what happened to you? Hello, are you okay?
Oh, my princess! Thank God you are alive! This young man must have saved her. Look, he is alive! Guard, send for the physician immediately!
The princess was deeply touched by the boy's courage and his love for her. She took care of the stable boy both day and night. He got better and better. Soon, the king gave the stable boy a royal title and some land. The stable boy and the princess were then married. They lived happily ever after.